Hello, hello. Welcome to the Five Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. I interview the top commercial real estate investors and industry experts so you can learn from their experiences. So if you're an investor, a high W-2 earner, or real estate or tech sales professional that wants to invest in real estate without having to manage properties or leave your day job, then this podcast is for you. Or if you're already investing in real estate, but you're doing it part-time and you want to become a full-time multifamily or full-time commercial real estate investor, this podcast is for you too. You're going to learn a ton. You will learn from real-life multifamily investors and other professionals in the industry. They're going to share their blueprints for success, and I'm super excited that you're here. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, hello. This is Abel Pacheco, your host for the Five Talents Podcast. We are super excited today because we have an amazing guest, Mr. Austin Linney, that's here on our show. Super pumped to have him. He is one of those individuals that has a super inspiring story. He's been constructing his life and building a lifestyle and showing others how to do that as well, coaching entrepreneurs and being, a property management kind of an expert, if you would, in 27 some odd deals across so many different states. Anyways, I'll let him really introduce himself, but I'm excited because he just got one of those vibes that you want to root for, one of those individuals that's just good, genuine people and himself. And thank you very much. So Austin, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Oh man, thanks you. It's interesting. I think we've done this. If we were dating, we'd be two ships passing in the night because, you're in deals with people I know. I see you everywhere. But this is the first time we're kind of meeting because, I know you and Adrian Salazar are friends. That's my boy. So, so it's awesome to be here. I'm very honored and excited to chat today.
All right. Well, very good, man. I'm excited. We're in good company and, anyways, excited to have you. So if you don't know Austin, you need to connect. He's got a podcast that he launched recently that's, Construct Your Life. And anyways, he's one of those individuals that works really hard at providing education, insight, mentorship, mindset for other people. And I know how hard it is to do 100 some odd plus shows in a short period of time. So it's no small undertaking. So congrats, man. But why don't you start by, telling us who you are and what you do today. We'll talk a little bit about real estate, and then I want to ask you some questions about how you got here. But so what do you actually do in real estate, man? Tell us about the services.
Yeah, so we've got the Airbnb company that we run for investors where we manage their properties for them. I've been doing that for about 5 years. We started a company back in the day after I was just doing it for myself. And we, as you mentioned, we grew to 7 states, 26 properties. Wound up leaving that company and then starting another one with a business partner of mine. And obviously, COVID had other plans in the Airbnb space in those couple months. So we had a lot of our investors sell properties or cut them loose or turn them into long-term rentals, which is great for them. I as long as they're making money, I don't care. And so we sat back and we assessed that I have 20 years in the hospitality business, selling wine, hotels, all that kind of stuff. So we decided that we wanted to get more into the experience model, more luxury, more, just where it is matters more than just the property. So we are focused now on doing luxury experiences with our clients, places in Montana, places in Colorado, things that really give you that wow factor. So when you switch your business model to something like that, it takes a little longer because those properties are bigger and there's a lot of lift on those. So, I turn down a lot of offers every week, and it's just not something I want to do because I've been down the road. When we were at scale, I was getting 80 to 125 messages a day on my phone. And at 11 o'clock at night, 4 in the morning, and I just was not in a good place. So I respect what we grew, but I also understood that was not sustainable for the long term. So we've shifted that model, and this is a lot more proper for me and my lifestyle, the way I want to move forward. And then we have my new business, which is the construction space, which we, once again, COVID, I had 2 lots under contract in Canyon Lake to build on, and the money dried up right when COVID hit. So we had to back out of those. But I always had a need to get into new construction because I see the need for it, and Texas is growing. And so long story short, met a guy on a podcast. I was his first guest, and then we got to talking. He came on my podcast, and now we're business partners. And so we're about to start building our first house. And, I'm super excited about that because the demand that is in need for Texas, with the goal of doing single family residence and small multifamilies in a offsite new construction setting. So with the goal of eventually, building 20, 30, 40 unit apartments down the road. So
get it on.
Yeah, but the great thing about construction is I've learned in a short amount of time, it's hurry up and wait. That's the name of the game for sure. But I will say this, and I had this revelation this week because we've only started this at the end of March. And there's been we've got clients we're talking to, different developments in Dallas and Tennessee and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I've learned more in 2 months than if you put 100 books in me for the next 10 years. And what I implore everybody to do is, if you really want to do something, just go do it. You're going to learn 9 billion more things by just jumping in the game. Dude, I had no idea about easements and all these, the city will tell you exactly what's going to go down really quickly. So, by just getting in there, asking questions, maybe guys, little tip, if there's somebody says a word that you don't understand what it is, just write it down. Go look it up later. Just be like, and so you kind of gain knowledge by doing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think that's so key. So a few things I heard, right? So you were doing property management, managing assets, helping investors, dealing with a lot of them, 27 different properties, all different times of day and night. Airbnbers are not, they're not on site. They haven't lived there for a year. They're like, where's this? Where's that? How do I get into this? All these problems and issues at any given time of vacation mode, right? So it can be day and night. And then over multiple different states. And all of that was kind of what you said, maybe the lifestyle that you had created, even though sounds like a very successful business, the lifestyle was kind of different. You constructed that lifestyle and you made it. And then maybe realized, hey, there's something that's a little different here. So I picked that part up.
Yeah.
Another part that I heard was, just the pivot, right? So pivot during COVID, when things moved, you had to move. So you had to be flexible, and you had to go to, skate where the puck is, right?
Well,
Gretzky, mindset, right?
Well, what's interesting, because I know all the big operators in Airbnb around the world. It's just my ecosystem. I know who they are. They're friends of mine. I was just down in Costa Rica a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to my friend who has 3 down there. They're from Kansas, but they've lived in Costa Rica for a couple of years. And when Costa Rica shut the borders down, they had no Airbnb guests, right?
Yeah.
But then they pivoted towards Swiss, Canadian people wanting to live there for 3 months, 6 months. And so they put them in there, right? And they're not making as much cash flow, right? But they're paying their bills and they're making a little bit over. You know what they said to me? We're not going back. This is amazing. They said, we can go travel now. We can go do, we're not running a hotel. And so I only say that to say this. Don't be so steadfast in the way that you generate money out of your property that you're not open to new things, because I think the rules change, the laws change, the economy changes. I like to go into every situation with as many tools as in my tool belt to make that property work for me as possible. That's why we're looking at land right now, and we're talking about tree houses, high-end tree houses and yurts, and tents and teepees, because what can we do to this property that can generate the most amount of money. Here's the space. How do we make the most amount of money? And then the way that happens changes all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, man, you got to be flexible. And I love the open mindset. And and then another thing, just now you're mentioning the network is so key.
Mm-hmm.
Had you not known some others that were doing what you're doing or had not networked, you may not have had the insight that they bestowed upon you. We're not going back. We're doing it this way. And, it's maybe you telling them the same, and both parties are benefiting from that network. Both parties are benefiting from the education, the mindset that you get to share with each other. And I think that's really cool. Um, Another big one you mentioned was, man, if you want to learn how to do something, then you need to go do it. So this is I'm 100% with you. We're doing our first new development, new
Okay.
construction. It's 150 freaking doors,
Ah,
and this deal has been taking us way longer than expected in the front end. But I mean, there's all these schematics and drawings and mechanical and HVAC and engineering and then I got to worry about this approval, that approval. And now I'm like just getting into types of materials. Well, what happens if that material's not available? Well, we got to have, let's pick a one, a two, a third choice, and these end finishings that is still way down the road. But when you do all of this stuff, you just end up learning all of it along the way, and there would be no book or no podcast interview that you're really going to go say, oh, I know it all. You got to go do it, and taking action is so key, right?
well, what's interesting, right? And I had this epiphany uh, earlier this week on my other podcast with my co-host Anthony, who runs a capital company out of Minnesota, on our other podcast. And he said something during our meetup that I hosted last week in Nashville, that communication is the number one thing that you need as a spouse, as a owner, as a operator, as a real estate investor, yet we don't practice it at all. And so then that got me thinking when I was working out, isn't that really what life is? Like, if we stop clinging to death with everything that it needs to be perfect and I need to know everything, like, isn't ultimately timing really everything? So if you're always learning and you're always putting yourself in positions with amazing people around you where you're leveling up, you're learning, you're getting in there, then you're going to be better served for it when the opportunity does show up, instead of thinking I'm not ready, instead of, because we've become this society thinking that perfection is the what it that's it's nothing. Like, flawed is really what society's about. But understanding that on the basis of that, I choose to get better every day. If you can hang your hat on that, then we're working in the right direction.
Yeah, what a great mindset, because the perfection part of it, that alone keeps a lot of people from moving forward on maybe a hobby, maybe a new job, maybe a new investing technique. I was like, well, I got to know all this stuff before it's got to be ready. I'm like, man, if you need all that stuff to be ready, you're never going to leap. You're never going to jump. You just got to you got to do a little something and take something on faith there and just start moving. And then naturally what happens is all the right things start to come in place, because you're putting it out there. You're learning what you need to do along the way. It's never going to be perfect. And maybe that's the first round. That's the first iteration. If you
Mm.
had failure, that's okay, because you're going to learn enough along the way. The second round, you do it better. The third round, fourth round, and nobody becomes an expert on their first go.
Yeah.
Right?
I have a mentor of mine I interviewed for the podcast a long time ago,
Yeah.
and he's a high level coach for like CEOs, and he refuses to talk about his bio. And I said, why? He goes, bios are meaningless. He goes, how about we talk about what actually made me what I am? And that's my list of failures.
Uh, so repeat this one more time, because I
So he
think it'll
said,
hit home.
how about we don't talk about my bio because it's
Yeah.
meaningless, because who I actually am built up to be is where my failures are.
Mm-hmm. 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 All of the man, what was his name? Steve Weatherford. I'm pretty sure
Mm-hmm.
that's his name.
Mm-hmm.
He's and he was an NFL kicker and Super Bowl however many time winner, and he spoke at a mastermind that we were at, and he's going through his bullets, his Super Bowl champion once, twice, whatever, kicker this, I made all these amazing things. He goes, look, this is the timeline as he was talking through us. And he goes, what all this timeline shows are all these high, amazing moments. But what it doesn't show is on the other end of those highlights, whether before or after, he said, he was like, I was at some of the lowest points of my life. And he's like, there was all kinds of things in his background. He went through the gamut, drugs, alcohol, this, that, high life, expending, whatever. He was like, I was some of the lowest. He goes, and then we had amazing highs. We did it, amazing performance. But he was like, there's so many obstacles and challenges and failures to get to that point. And then it goes down and you're in a super low, and then it goes a high point. And I guess just most people may not have had these crazy achievements in their mind. They don't realize there's a lot of failure behind a lot of those achievements, and you just got to weather those storms. So anyways, let me pause here, because
sure.
on that point, we talked a little bit, and I thought your story was super inspiring, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have one of those backgrounds where you've overcome some immense challenges, immense obstacles, to even get to a mindset where it sounds pretty freaking clear to me today, where you can help coach others, give some mindset. You've been through some low points, and now you're helping people get to their highs. So how did all this stuff start in real estate? What happened? Where'd you come from?
What's interesting is I'm going to frame it 100% different for the first time, because I think sometimes when I share my story so freely, people are like, it almost feels like it's fake. And I'm like, no, I just got to a point where I understand that my story is nothing more than to empower somebody to step out of their own way. Right. And the reason I say that is to say this, is that remember that each one of you has a story. It doesn't matter how you were raised. It doesn't matter where you are. And so mine started when I was 17 years old. My dad was a dentist in Sugar Land, Texas. And we grew up across the street from Robert Ory, basketball player. Avery Johnson lived down the street. We were a nice neighborhood.
Great neighborhood.
Yeah, great neighborhood. Ain't no bad going to the country club, But I didn't like school. I had a photographic memory. It didn't really do anything for me. And when I was 17 years old, one of my friend's dads was like, "You're a little different." So he handed me like Rich Dad Poor Dad. And he's like, read it. And I read it in like a week, and I reported back to him. And like that totally like shift my entire mind. Well, a couple of months later, I was still getting in trouble in school. My parents told me like, hey, it was either military school or you're going to Beaumont, Texas, which is where my parents are from in the country. And I was like, well, I'm not going to military school, so I'll just go out this way, which is like 3 hours away. So I wound up going to school there, and I went from like 4,000 in my school to like 100, and they were all like Hicks and cowboys, and they wore camo to school. Yeah, it was different, way different. And about 2 months into that, my parents came to me and they said, hey, we're getting a divorce. And so I associated, for lack of improper communication with myself and through my parents, I associated myself with the reason they got divorced. And that started a downward spiral. I joined the restaurant business when I was 18. And if anybody knows the restaurant business, especially back in those days, it was fueled by alcohol and drugs. And I got introduced to cocaine and alcohol and proceeded to partake in that stuff. And then one day got introduced to methamphetamines. And that shit does not mess around. You're using on the weekends, Friday or Saturday, and then Friday or Saturday turns into Monday, Tuesday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday. And, you're still working, you're still getting everything done, but you're not all there. And wound up kind of coming to a head when I stayed up for like 8 days straight one time. And wasn't eating and had lost like 25 pounds. And an ex-girlfriend saw me and she was like, hey, you look terrible, like get your shit together. And so I packed up all my stuff and I moved to Austin, Texas. And that day I quit the hard drugs for good. I don't know what it was. I don't know if I was done with it or just kind of over it, but I just quit cold turkey, which is not rarely the case. But I still drank, and I want to make that very clear to everybody. Like, so yeah, I might have quit the hard drugs, but I still drank because, alcohol is socially acceptable and it's whatever. And I worked in the restaurant business, right?
Yeah.
So fast forward a couple months, I wound up getting way too drunk and wound up wrecking my car, running into somebody's yard and running over their mailbox, and wound up getting out of it. That's a crazy story. But totaled my car, didn't have a job, didn't have a place to live. My friend came and got me from Austin, took me back home to my mom's house, and I proceeded to continue to party for another month. And she had had enough, and she kicked me out, and my dad cut me off, and I had a bag of clothes, and I had my BS excuses. And my friend picked me up, and I cried like a little baby for like a couple hours, and he was like, "Hey, look, we're gonna figure this out. Like, pull it together. Like, we're gonna start here." And so he called a buddy that he knew who owned a construction company, and he said, "Listen, this guy's gonna pick you up at 5 a.m. He's gonna drop you off at 6:30, and you're gonna figure it out." I didn't even know what I was doing, to be honest with you. I didn't even care. So I had nowhere to live, and wound up. My best friend's brother had a house in Beaumont, and he was like, "Listen, we got nowhere for you to live, but we got a closet underneath the stairs that you can stay in." So I had a bag of clothes and a single mattress and a fan, and I slept in a closet for 3 months. And I lived off ham sandwiches and ramen noodles. That guy came and picked me up every morning. I laid tile and brick in Texas in the middle of the summer. So you can imagine that I was not pleasurable. But you know what's funny? I was on a podcast yesterday, and I remember this. It finally hit me, and I don't remember this. I would sit in the homes that we were working in, and I would read during my lunch break. And I would read like the Lance Armstrong book or like some positive personal development book. So as that registers now, I realize that was kind of the seed that's been planted. But people always ask me all the time, like, what got you out of that closet? And I remember, and I remember because you have a lot of time to self-reflect. Country club, 3,500 square foot house, golf course to that. My parents always taught me that the default is to work. It's not to complain. It's to work. It's to work. And part of the story that I rarely share, right? And this goes to all you parents out there. There's no part of my mom that wanted to do that. There's no part. She told me later on, a couple of years later, she cried every night, not knowing where her son was, if he was alive. But I wasn't getting the message. I wasn't getting I wasn't understanding the gravity of where we were going. So I will forever be grateful to both of my parents for having the strength to send me the strongest message possible, as we're not going to put up with your shit. So I saved up some money. I got a car. I got my bartending job back. And then let's just say that I've been running from that closet ever since. So 2.5 years ago, I joined a mastermind called M1. I met a guy on Instagram. He told me, "Hey, if there's any houses in the Denver Heights area, I'm buying." I said, "No, I'm buying first." And he was like, he was like, "Oh, saucy, huh?" So we met for coffee the next day, and I wound up telling him, my story. I was still drinking at the time. And he said, "Hey, dude, you need to join this mastermind." Like, I was like, "My dreams are bigger than the people I'm around." He was like, "Boom, done. You're in. Let's go." So I joined this thing, and I wound up meeting these guys who were successful, and they were 9 and 11 months sober. And it was the first time I've ever been around anybody successful that was sober. And so it
I didn't even think about that kind of stuff.
It gave me the freedom to understand that it was okay. And they said, "Listen, if you ever thought about it, give it a shot." And so I made it like 26 days. I drank again. I was mad at myself. I waited 30 more days, and then I said, "Let's go 60 days." Well, 60 days turned into 6 months, and then 6 months turned into a year. And
Yeah.
then, so here we are 2.5 years later, I've lost, 70 pounds, and we're out here just trying to make an impact. So
trying to go make it happen. Look at
yeah.
that, man. Thank you just so much for being vulnerable, for being open, for sharing. Somebody else, myself, I'm like, man, that's so inspiring. Listening to everything from your perspective. Other people, they're gonna benefit from saying, oh man, look at the courage that this individual has, Austin, and just to make it happen and the way you did it. I'm inspired, bro.
You know what's interesting, and it's funny that we're having this conversation right now. Before I started, I got a DM from a young man who said, I want to thank you. And I was like, oh, we don't even know each other. And he said, I'm a new father. I was addicted to cocaine and alcohol. He said, I just moved to get away from my bad situation. He goes, I've been sober for a couple months. He goes, your podcast has told me it's all right to be me, and you've changed my life. Yeah. And I think sometimes when we put out this content, and sometimes when we're like, oh, it's another post, right?
Yeah.
Remember, guys, anybody that's producing content out there, it's the people that are listening and watching that don't click like or don't comment that you're really affecting. So if you want to share your story, you want to do a post, make sure you do it, because it matters to people.
Yeah, baby. I love it. I love it, Austin. I'm super excited. Thank you very much for just, for doing that. You're impacting some folks. You got me choked up a little bit on this side. I'm inspired too, man. I stopped drinking, for those that, maybe like, oh, I wonder, what the success part of it. Let's see. I think I stopped drinking one time when I was younger, and I had like a 4-year run. And I had an amazing run, not drinking. The only reason I stopped was I ended it in Napa Valley for like a super awards trip. Yeah. From my professional world. I worked at Rackspace, and we went on they had this Rackstar trip. Yeah. And they took us to Napa Valley, and I go, well, I'm looking at my wife. I go, we're in wine country. Yeah. I'm gonna drink some wine. And anyways, I that started maybe 6 months or a year that I would drink a beer every once in a while. But after that 4-year run, I'm on my second 4-year run. Okay. So it's been a number of years that I don't drink. And, I'm 41. So I had a good time in college, and I had a good time when I was in high school and all the way up until, and man, just being sober in general, it's like, wow. Oh, I love it. And people have asked me, well, you don't drink anymore? Did you have a problem? And I go, not really ever a problem. I drank socially, whatever. But I notice when I don't drink, my mind it allows me to focus on what I really want to be focused on. It's not, hey, where am I going to go hang out this evening, or, with this group of folks, or how much did I drink or not drink? Or I wonder if my morning's messed up, or what about driving? What about here? Do I have to get an Uber? Do I have to leave my car? All this, it's just like a whole big, a lot of mental energy that goes into it. And I didn't realize it. The moment I said, nah, I'm good, I was like, oh, I am actually good. And then my friend's like, you want to come hang out? I go, yeah, let's go hang out. I'm going to go to the bar and have a glass of water. And it's like, it's funny. I had a group of friends, and it was dad's, dang it, I lost the words. They're having a baby, and my buddy's not a bachelor party. What the heck? Pre-baby party, diaper party, whatever for the dad. So anyways, we're at a place, and they're drinking some pretty high end drinks, and they're passing this tab around, and they're like, hey, there's like 10 of us, and we're gonna split it. And then they're like, hey, Abel, your dollar amount is like, oh, I go, whoa, that's like $200 a person. You guys are hitting it hard. And somebody goes, oh, Abel doesn't drink. No, we're, don't pay. Like, oh yeah, even that. So the tab didn't get passed to me. I had a great time. Anyway, yeah. Super fun. But just there's a lot of mental energy that goes. Once you can pass that, once you can focus on what your dreams are, like you said, your dreams are bigger than the people that you're around. You joined a mastermind. So maybe tell us a little bit about, tell us about what a mastermind is.
Yeah.
Who forget about the specific group, but just some
just
people
to hit on your point, and just to hit on your point about taking mine away, this can be, and by the way, I still champion booze. I sold it for 20 years. I love Napa. I love France. I'm a master bartender. So like, I still make drinks for my mentors, but I will say this to piggyback on your point.
Yeah.
We do this in so many things. Like, understand that like your clothes to go work out in the morning, if they're in the closet behind 9 things, you're expending mental energy to go find those things. So set yourself up for success in life. Meaning if you don't have to think about it, or you're busy, get a pre-made meal service, like all these things that we can do to shortchange to make sure that we're on the path to success. But it was ultimately this mastermind, and I'm not currently in it anymore, but who I was a window into the world of holy crap. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of investors out there, you know what, I'll go to venture that most investors out there live inside their bubble. Like they're like, oh, I'm in San Antonio and I'm, flipping 3 houses a year. And I'm like, dude, that's great. But when I had 3 Airbnbs and I got around dudes that had 113, you're like, holy crap. And then your mind shifts. But here's what's just even more. Then you're in those conversations and then they go, wait, do you not have automated messaging? Do you not have a keyless entry? Do you not have this? And here I am dying inside, working 2 jobs, cleaning 3 Airbnbs. In 3 things I put into my properties and I go, oh my God, I could do 40 now. So it was that one conversation with those people. So when you allow yourself to get in those conversations with people that are doing higher and bigger things than you, remember that water finds its level. So at the end of the day, you will rise to the occasion of what they're doing, right? They say it all the time. You hang around long enough with 5 millionaires, you're going to be the 6th. And so what it really is, right? And I had this happen to me when I went to Nashville, and I went to a Jake and Gino event. And there was a guy that was speaking that had like 300 units, I want to say. And they bought like 1,450 units in one shot, like in a package. Yeah. And he just looked, he was talking to the group and he goes, I mean, what? We were just going to do it. And he's like, and I'm just like, huh? And like, you're sitting there the whole day and you're just realizing like, it's all possible. It's all possible. And he's just like, hey, we're just going to figure it out.
Yes.
And so think about how much that shot his life up in that one shot, right? And so when you get around people like that, it expands your mind to think that really anything's possible. Because, I think that we view time as this thing that takes forever. But if you really focus and you really put your head down and you really get surrounded by the right people, in a year, 2 years, 3 years, you can be retired. And I say that and people get pissed at me. And I'm like, no, it's the truth. Like,
there's
done properly.
People that have that I've been around that have done it. And until I met them, though, it was kind of hard for me to wrap my mind around it because I was 38, I'm 41 now. And then I go, are you kidding me? No way. I've been working at this thing too long. And I finally got to this big paycheck and now it's going to happen. And they're like, no, it won't happen that way. I'm like, dude, no, I've just been putting all these years in a professional career. But anyways, it's hard to wrap your mind around it, right?
It is, but it, you know why I know it's possible? Because I have multiple young kids in my ecosystem who are 23 and 24 that could retire right now if they wanted to.
They're already done.
And they're already done.
I've interviewed a few of them on my podcast.
Yeah, and you're just like, I got one out in Arizona that's 22 that's done already. Like if he wants to be, he's not going to. But I'm just like, guys,
and be at a different level. But
I'm like, so stop whining and complaining because it's possible. It's just that he is not out at the bars. He's not out doing those things. He is putting in the work since he was 17, and it's paying off now because that. You know what's interesting is that I really think that this all comes down to one really thing. What do you value? What do you value? Because here's what I do know, and tell me if this doesn't hit home with you. The same people that asked for my advice 2 years ago, a year ago, are the same people that are going to come to me 15 years from now when I'm sitting on my island and I'm chillaxing, and they're going to go, what was the secret? And I go, I've been saying the same damn thing every year for 15 years. You didn't want to get to work. It's as simple as that. Life is not very complicated. Live on less than you make, move your body 15 minutes a day, eat well, be kind to people, drink water, take a portion of what you make and invest it in long-term investments. There you go. I just gave you the secret to life.
They're pretty simple, principles that are there. It's hard to think there are some of them that are that simple, but yeah, health, wealth, and for me, faith. That's a lot of the things that I point to all the time, just on a constant everyday basis. I look at all these magic moments. I'm like, man, thank you, Lord, for helping me through these things. You've got the blueprint, though. It's like these basic things, just go do those every day. And we're created by our habits. We're created by fear and greed, and we're created by, the desires and wants and motivations, whether they're in our hearts or our head. And then ultimately what happens is your habits, what you do every single day, like a creature of habit, whether it's in the morning, afternoon, nighttime, in your thoughts, they kind of keep hitting you and hitting you. And that creates your actions, and that creates your actions, creates your outcome. And, if you're always fearful and always scared or worried, or always, think you can't do that, that's your thought process. And that becomes your habit, becomes to play that way. And when you start acting and playing that way, then that becomes your life, because life is a bunch of moments that ends up being 1 hour at a time. One day is gone, turns into a week and a month and a year, and then you're gone, right? So,
and what they don't tell you is everything that you're doing today is going to show up 6 months from now. And one of my favorite books in the entire world is called The Slight Edge. And he says
Slight Edge. I've never heard of that. Tell me about it.
He says the problem with habits and the problem with daily activities is just as easy as they are to do. They're just as easy not to do. And what he means by is eating that hamburger, or not working out, or not working on your business. It's not going to kill you. But doing that compounded over a long time is the single greatest difference in success.
Yep. Man, I'm pumped. I just hired a health coach and a nutrition program, and I got all that stuff going. And I'm going to lose like 90 pounds.
Whoa. Yeah, dude.
I'm excited.
Well,
it's 278. I'm 262 today.
Let's go, dude. It's, and to hit on that point, COVID happens. I get laid off from private equity. 2 weeks later, I get divorced. 13-year marriage falls apart.
Man,
lose my dog. I lose my house. I have 7 boxes to my name, that kind of story. And I traveled around, and it wasn't always easy, but I tell you what I had. I clung like death to my daily habits, and my working out and my health was what I hung on to. No matter what city I was in, where I was mentally, if I knew that if I took time for myself and I did that, then I would at least have that to hang on to in the storm. And I don't think people understand that health and fitness is the quickest way to a quick win. And it boosts confidence internally, right? And so we have to start there. That's what matters.
Boom. I'm excited, man. Hello. You're listening to the 5 Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you're serious about achieving financial freedom. Are you ready to create your own path through multifamily investing for yourself and your family? Then I know you're going to appreciate our Investor's Guide to Multifamily Investing. It's titled Tackling Commercial Real Estate the Easy Way. We use this guide to invest ourselves in $93 million worth of real estate. So we're going to show you the basic mechanics of multifamily syndications and how to evaluate your next passive investment opportunity. So the best part, If you subscribe to our podcast now, leave us a review and a rating. I'm going to give you a free copy of our ebook. So please take a moment to do that now. Once you've done that, go to 5tcre.com/ebook, 5tcre.com/ebook. Make sure to let us know you left a review, and we're going to send you a free copy. So thank you so much for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast. We really appreciate it. Hey, brother. So I'm happy that we got connected. I'm super excited that we got, to spend a little time together. For those people that are listening, who do you want to reach out to you, and where do they go reach you?
Sure. Anybody that's feeling stuck, that needs their ass kicked, just give me a call. No, but that's the deal, man. Here's the deal. There's no chance that my coaching clients don't meet me. They change their job, move across the country, travel to Europe. It's what I do. I like to shake it up. But the easiest way to get a hold of me is Instagram or Facebook, Austin Linney. But you can go to my website, www.austinlinney.com, and you can find the podcast. You can reach out to me, whatever you need. I'm available. I love to help out anybody that's possible. And I can't thank you enough, sir. You're somebody that I really look up to. And you inspire me with how much you network and how much you give back. And I just wanted to share that on the air, and thank you so much.
Right on, brother. Yeah, I'm excited, Austin, but I have a couple more questions before you go.
Sure.
So thank you for sharing. I think, I have a feeling more than a few people will reach out and at least say hello, connect with you one way or the other, dude. Your coaching programs, it's more than just real estate investors, even though we're talking to a lot of real estate folks. You're talking professional life coach, that kind of thing, is all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I have guys who are in the health insurance space, building companies. I've got people in Canada around. It doesn't matter. I mean, really, I cover everywhere. People know me for my real estate, but really it's more about just, I'm just trying to make them the best version of themselves. A lot of my clients are extremely highly successful people that they're not clicking on all the pillars. Like maybe their relationship's out of whack. Maybe their health is out of whack. And so we're just trying to get them to understand that, you can make all the money in the world, but let's make sure that the soul, mind, and body are incongruent with who they need to be.
All right. And then you also do some real estate. So it's kind of, you're going to do construction. You're going to build some new stuff. You are you're doing construction rather. I'm sure you're learning entitlements and land and like you said, all this stuff. This is super fun. And then you're going to go, build some developments. And then also you're helping other investors, private equity, sources, areas, things like that, right?
It's definitely something. I'm in a full crash course right now, in talks to do some stuff with that. So I'm definitely looking forward to, I've always thought about and kind of gravitated towards the raising of the funds for operators and stuff like that. So it's definitely something that I don't take lightly, because I know there are regulations. I know there are parameters that you have to stick in. So I'm very pragmatic with my education to make sure that I'm surrounding myself. I have a good friend of mine that works for Hunter Thompson. So, I'm definitely learning a lot from his book and just kind of talking to as many people as I can. My window in the private equity world really opened my eyes to how money is operated. And if you can understand how money works, you can really use it to create long-term wealth and speed up the process of investing.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. 10 years, I bought houses. Me and my wife, we saved all our money and we did it ourselves. And I thought that was the way because I didn't have any partners. I didn't have to split it with anybody. So this is I don't want to split it with anybody. And it took me 10 years to get a little light bulb moment. They're like, how do you think these bigger deals are done? We partner with people. We're like, oh, so I got to have partners. They're like, some of these big deals have like 30 partners. And like, holy moly, 30 people on a deal. You're like, yep. But that's not $100,000 house. It's a $10 million one. So the pie is big enough. Everybody gets their fair share.
Here's what they don't tell you. And I learned this very quickly from private equity. A boss told me this on day one. I thought he was joking. He goes, you're going to put out the same amount of effort on a $100,000 loan as you are on a $15 million loan. Shoot for the stars, my friend.
Yep.
It's the truth.
I'm now also learning that $100,000 cash investment can be invested in a single family house, a $10 million deal, or $100 million freaking half a billion dollar portfolio.
Yeah.
Same 100 grand. And I was like, "Are you serious?" They're like, "Yeah, like 10,000 doors. We're doing it. We have a fund open right
Yeah.
now, and
Hmm.
the fund is essentially it's buying 10,000 plus doors, like half a billion dollars worth of real estate, and actually that there's an entity that's running it. And I was asked this question the other day. They go, "Hey, let me ask you this." They go, if you have somebody who's an expert, they've been doing something for 30 years and they're just experts and they got a lot of resources and all the time, and who do you think is going to do this better, the expert or you just learning? And I'm like, well, probably the expert. And I start thinking about this stuff because, like, sometimes I'm talking with investors and they want control. I need this 100K. I don't know. I don't want to put it here because I need control. And I have never asked that question. I'm going to start. Hey, if you had a team that was doing this for, 20, 30 years of expertise, and, they were just cranking away, who do you think would do that better, them or
Well,
you?
hey, welcome to my Airbnb world. Like, I've been doing it 5 years at scale, and the homemaker is like, no, you should do it this way. And I'm like, so here's the rule. If you get into business with me, you're not allowed to, like, we're full service. So literally you get 5-page report every month with a check in your bank account. You don't even know if there's anybody in your house.
Yeah.
So don't ask me of, like, just let me go to work. Like, and I've made it very clear because we have had the owner, true story, the biggest house we ever got. I told this guy, do not spend this much money on this remodel. It's an Airbnb. And he did it anyway. And he was buying like $170 lamps and like rugs. And I'm like, bro,
Whoa.
it's not going to go good for you.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it didn't. But that's neither here nor there. But he kept refreshing the Airbnb calendar every 45 minutes and texting us. He's like, I needed to make money. I needed to make money. And I'm like, bro, you need to just dial it back. And sure enough, I got him $9,000 in 1 month and he was still upset. And I'm like, dude, like, I just got you, like, 6 times your mortgage, but
Yeah.
sometimes you just can't please everybody, and you got to let the experts do what they do best.
Yeah. So anyways, this has been an awesome conversation. Austin, is there anything we didn't talk about today, or any question you're hoping to ask? I just didn't
So,
get
so
to?
you love mindset, and I have bought this book 60 times for everybody I run into contact with. So I just want to share this
Yeah.
parting piece of value. It's $13 on Amazon. It'll change your entire life. It's called What You Say When You Talk to Yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a book about how your subconscious mind controls 90% of what you do and who you are. And
Mm-hmm.
so it teaches you to reprogram your mind to create abundance and release the stuff that's holding you back.
Mm-hmm. I love it. That's a great book. I read, have read this book multiple times. Not the one you're talking about, but it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
What you say when you talk to yourself. And the book that I read was The Greatest Salesman in the World.
Okay. Yeah, I
And
have
some
it.
people I don't know if you've
I've partaked a little bit, but I haven't dug into it all the way.
it's by Og Mandino, and it sounds like a sales book. Like, oh, the greatest salesman in the world. Like, oh, you want to be a salesperson. But what it really is, it's set up in a way that gives you multiple principles on which to live your life by. Like, I will master my emotions, I'll become a master of my emotions. I will persist until I succeed. I will greet this day with love in my heart. I will act now. And every one of these chapters is kind of like a principle. It tells a story and you get this,
Mm-hmm.
but the way they prescribe it, and I say prescribe because it's not a one-time read. You read it and you're supposed to read one chapter every day for 30 days
Okay.
in the morning and afternoon, and you say it out loud at night, and you do that for 30 days, and all of a sudden you memorize and starts to dig into your
Oh,
subconscious like a chapter at a time. And when you say I will persist until I succeed, and I was not delivered in this world in defeat, nor does failure course in my veins. I'm not a sheep waiting to be parted by a shepherd. I'm a lion, and I don't talk or walk with a sheep. And I will, you just start to, when you literally read it every morning, afternoon, and night, and you say it out loud, and you do it for 30 days. And I've done this, on this particular book because I love it, which I also try to meditate and say the same on the Bible. But those sink into your subconscious. And when you go to sleep and when you wake up and when you act, you start to act the exact same way that you read. And this is probably exactly, this is opening, I bet, a mindset. Like, this is what happens. And then this book would be like, oh, you want some programming? Here, use this one to program your mind.
I'm going to start that tomorrow. I'm buying it right after we get off this.
I want to say I heard Matthew McConaughey say that he read this particular book when he was younger. And I think he was one of the ones I go, oh, okay, he read it. Someone else gave it to me. But then as soon as, I don't know why, Matthew McConaughey, I like that guy.
Yeah, me too.
Brother, thanks. It's been an amazing conversation. Super appreciate your time. Let's talk soon.
All right, my man. Thank you so much.
All right. Again, my name is Abel Pacheco. I'm your host for the 5 Talents Podcast. We really appreciate it. If you heard something that provided you value today, which I find it hard to believe that not find value in this show, I know you did. Go to our podcast, subscribe, rate, and review. Leave us a written review. Go ping Austin. Go tell him you appreciate his time and tell him you heard us here on our 5 Talents Podcast. I would be blessed. So thank you very much, Austin. You're the man. Thanks for your time, brother.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the 5 Talents Podcast with your host, myself, Abel Pacheco. Each week, we're going to bring you interviews from industry experts and commercial real estate investors who followed their dreams and achieved massive success. Before you leave, let me ask you a few questions. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you learn something valuable? Was your mind stretched to what's possible and what you can achieve? Do you want other experts just like the one you heard today? If you answered yes to any or all of those questions, then please take a moment to subscribe to the 5 Talents Podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, leave us a written review. Tell us what you liked, tell us your favorite guest, give us any feedback. I'm excited to learn and improve so you can get a more valuable show. So thank you again for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast.